So, dear student, in this session, I will talk about classification of gears. So, here I will present four different ways by which gears can be classified. First is according to the type of gearing. So, in this, we can say internal gearing, external gearing, rack and pinion. Then, in the second category, according to the position of the axis of the shaft, you have parallel. Parallel means when the two shaft axes are parallel to each other. Now, to transmit power, in this case, you have option. You can go with the spur gears and helical gears. Then there are possibility that the shafts are non-parallel, but they are intersecting. So in this case, you can use straight bevel and spiral bevel gears. Then the third one is non-parallel and non-intersecting. In this case, you can use worm and worm wheel. And then the third category is according to the position of the teeth on the gear surface. So gear teeth can be straight, inclined, or curved. Then the next one is according to the peripheral velocity of the gears. So if the peripheral velocity is less than 3 meter per second, then it comes under low velocity. If the peripheral velocity between 3 to 15, it is called medium. If the peripheral velocity is higher than 15 meter per second, then it is high velocity. So now look at this animation. In this animation, you can see this gear which is moving in the clockwise direction. This gear we call it as a driving gear. And this gear which is moving in the counterclockwise direction, this is called driven gear. Right. So, and this line which you can observe, this line is called as line of action. So motion or the power is transmitted along this line, right? So this is called line of action. And this blue line which joins the center of two gears is cutting at this line of action, and where it is intersecting with it, this point is known as pitch point, right? So this is fundamental about how the gear meshes and how it can transmit the power. Then it is according to the type of gearing, external gearing. So you can see in case of external gearing, the teeth have been formed on the outer surface of the cylinder. So in this case, the shaft rotate in the opposite direction. So let's say if this gear is my pinion, or you can say the driving gear. So this driving gear is rotating in this direction, right? But you see the outcome of this driven gear is rotating in the opposite direction. So you see this is the sense of rotation of driven gear, right? So this is the sense of rotation. Opposite to this one, this is rotating in the counterclockwise direction, whereas gear wheel is rotating in the clockwise direction. So the external gearing signify that. Then spur, rake and pinion. So in this case, you can find spur rake is a special case of spur gear where it is made of infinite diameter, so that the pitch surface is a plane. The spur rake and pinion combination basically converts rotary motion into translatory motion or vice versa. So one example which is mentioned here is this one is the lathe machine where the rake transmit motion to the saddle. Saddle moves in the, you can say, a translatory way. Now you can see in this animation how it happens. Now look at the third one, that is the internal gearing. So in case of internal gearing, you can see this part, this part of the gear, and this part of the gear is called as a annular ring. So In case of internal gearing, the gear teeth are formed on the inner surface of the annular ring rather than the outer surface of the wheel. Here, the gear teeth are formed in the inner surface. In the animation also, both the gears are rotating in the same direction. Look at this, the sense of rotation, and you see the sense of rotation of the annular ring. Both are in the same direction. So in case of internal gearing, the sense of rotation will be same, whereas in case of external gearing, the sense of rotation will be opposite, as we have seen. Now, next category is according to the position of the axis of the shaft. So, if you would like to join parallel shaft, then kinematically we can say there is a uniform rotary motion between two parallel shafts is equivalent to the rolling of two cylinders, assuming no slipping. Now you can see the spur gears, they have straight teeth parallel to the axis and thus are not subjected to axial thrust due to tooth load. Now look at this. Here we can observe the gear teeth are parallel to the axis. So you can observe here, this is the line which I have drawn to denote the gear teeth. So gear teeth are like this and the axis is like this. So you see these two are parallel to each other. So in case of spur gears, gear teeth, these are the gear teeth. This is the width of the gear teeth. Gear teeth are basically parallel to the axis of rotation. So that is how the spur gear gets identified. Then we can see in this small animation, at the time of engagement of two gears, contact extends across the entire width on a line parallel to the axis of rotation. So if you look at this, again. At the time of engagement of two gears, contact extends across the entire width on a line parallel to the axis of rotation. So you see the contact extends along this line, right? Contact extends along this line. So this is lead to one problem with the spur gear. It results in sudden application of load, high impact stresses and excessive noise at high speeds. So this is the disadvantage part of spur gears. Now look at another category that is called helical gears. So if you look at helical gears, so you can find one difference as compared to the spur gears. In case of helical gears, the gear teeth are not straight. They are not parallel to the axis of rotation. Rather, they are inclined by a certain angle. So therefore, it is highlighted here. The teeth on the helical gears are cut at an angle to the face of the gear. So this is important, right? So now you can see in the this photograph here. These are the direction of the gear teeth, right? And this is the direction of axis. And I have shown here the helix angle, right? This is called as a helix angle, right? So, in nutshell, we can say helical gears do not have straight uh, teeth, rather they are inclined by certain angle. At the same time, we can say that two mating gears have the same helix angle but have teeth of opposite ends. So how we can understand that point? Just look at this photograph in which you can find this gear has helix of this direction, right? So if I put my thumb along the gear teeth, then this thumb will be along the gear teeth. But in this case, if I put my thumb, so not this one, this hand has to be used over here, right? So you can say these are the direction of the helix which formed, right? So therefore, this gear is called as right hand helix, and this gear is called as a left hand helix. So therefore, here it is mentioned two mating gears have the same helix angle but have teeth of opposite hands. So that you need to understand. Again, to make it more clearer here, look at this. Here, if I put hand like this, then this become the left hand helix, and if I put hand like this, then it become the right hand helix. So once you have helical gear in your hand, then you can identify whether this helical gear has right hand helix or left hand helix. Now see how the meshing is done in the gear. So you look at this, the gradual engagement things which I have just explained. Look at the animation part. Here, the 2 points which I would like to highlight. First is the gradual engagement makes helical gears operate much more smoothly and quietly than spur gears. Other point which I would like to highlight is that the helical gear angle of the gear teeth are correct. They can be mounted on the perpendicular shaft, and they can form the angle from 15 degree to 45 degree. So this is how the helix angle varies from 15 to 45 degree. At the same time, you can see there is a gradual engagement. In this slide, I will explain you how the helical gears are mating. Now you look at this, you see the at the beginning of engagement occurs only at the point of the leading edge, which you can see from here, right? That we call it as a at the beginning of engagement, contact occurs only at the point of leading edge of the curved teeth. As the gears rotate, the contact extends along a diagonal line across the teeth. So you try to see that, try to observe carefully that red point. You see this, how it is moving, right? Right? How it is moving. Now it is at the end. So that therefore it is called at the beginning of engagement, contact occurs only at the point of leading edge of the curved teeth. As the gear rotates, the contact extends along a diagonal line across the teeth. Now the next thing is helical gears have some other problem which are associated with that. The disadvantage of end thrust, because of the inclined teeth, we have one component along the axis of the shaft. So that component is called as a thrust, and this thrust leads to create certain problem as far as the application is concerned. Therefore, your helical gear always associated with end thrust bearings. So you can see in this case there is a bearing need to be deployed along with the gears. You see this is the bearing, and then bearing will take care the axial load, right? Now you can see some more gear in action, right? Gear in action.